Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the launch of our 16th S.R. Nathan Fellow, Mr. Philip Yeo's book, Neither Civil Nor Servant, Singapore's Disruptive Economic Playbook. We are grateful to everyone for taking the time to join us today and are delighted to have the chairman of the National Research Foundation, Mr. Heng Keat, here as our guest of honor. Mr. Janadas Devan, Director of IPS, will begin with his welcome remarks. He will be followed by Mr. Heng and finally Mr. Philip Yeo. We will then launch the book. After the launch, there will be a book signing session with Mr. Yeo. Before we begin, please put your mobile phones on silent mode. Online purchases of Mr. Yeo's book is now available on World Scientific Publishing's website. From now till the month of August, all volumes of IPS-Nathan Lecture series, including Mr. Yeo's book, can be purchased online with a 20% discount. Enter the promo code WSIPS20 for 20% off your purchase. Now, without further ado, Mr. Janadas Devan, Director of IPS, will deliver his welcome remarks. Director, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the launch of Neither Civil Nor Servant. That book can only be by one person, so I don't have to give you his name. It's a collection of 3 essays delivered by Mr. Philip Yeo as IPS's 16th S.R. Nathan Fellow. It is our great honor to have Mr. Heng Keat, Chairman of the National Research Foundation, launch Philip's book this evening. Mr. Heng was my long-term boss when he was in government as Deputy Prime Minister. I might take this opportunity to make a personal remark and a revelation. I'm not particularly religious. In fact, I'm not religious at all. But the only person I ever prayed for in my life was Mr. Heng. There was a cabinet meeting, and I go in at the end of cabinet, what they call post-cap, to do a post-cap briefing on comms. And then I left, and a few moments later, there was havoc in the cabinet room because Mr. Heng had passed out and slipped below the table, and then they were busy trying to resuscitate him. And the ambulance came and rushed him off. And it so happened that a few weeks later, while he was still in hospital, I happened to be, of all places, in Israel, the Temple of Mount, and I prayed for Mr. Heng. The only person I ever prayed for in my life. He's a man of rare distinction, not only brilliant, not only extremely able, but also very rare in public service, and even rarer in politics, a good man. Philip delivered his 3 lectures between March and June last year. The lectures took place at an interesting moment globally. They were delivered between March and June, as I said, not long after President Donald Trump was re-elected as President of the United States. There were questions about tariffs, supply chains, economic competition, and were all returning to the center of global discussion. At the same time, there was artificial intelligence, which was, as we know, advancing at a remarkable speed, reshaping industries, and raising new questions about the future of work, innovation and productivity, and so on, and so much else. In this context, Philip's lectures were particularly timely. He reflected on how Singapore built its economic capabilities in an earlier period of disruption, from industrialization to research and development now, and what those experiences might tell us as we navigate the next phase of technological and economic change, perhaps as disruptive, if not more so. In other words, the world was reminding us once again that history rarely ends, it merely changes direction. Mark Twain was supposed to have said, history doesn't repeat itself exactly, but it is a nasty habit of rhyming. Over the years, we have had civil servants, academics, diplomats, and historians among our fellows. Philip represents something completely different. He has long been known for his impatience with inertia, his willingness to challenge conventions, and his habit of moving faster than institutions are sometimes comfortable with. Actually, they are rarely comfortable with. All in the belief that Singapore must act decisively if it is to stay ahead. Mark Zuckerberg claims credit for the saying, move fast and break things. Long before Mark Zuckerberg was born even, Philip Yeo was moving fast and breaking a lot of things. But there was one difference. He not only broke things, he helped build things. And if not for people like him, Dr. Goh Keng Swee and the rest of the founding leaders would not have been able to accomplish what we had. The result is what you see all around Singapore. This is thanks to neither civil nor servant Philip Yeo. S.R. Nathan Fellowship for the Study of Singapore was named in honor of our sixth president and longest serving president. It was established to foster in-depth exploration and understanding of issues critical to Singapore. Since its inception more than 10 years ago, it has become a kind of beacon of public intellectual discourse. It is through the generosity of our many donors, along with the Singapore government's matching grant, that we've been able to sustain and grow this initiative. The fellowship will continue to bring in distinguished fellows. The 17th fellow was Piyush Gupta. He's just concluded his lecture series on Singapore's financial sector. The current 18th S.R. Nathan fellow is Dr. Sean Lam, who is in the midst of delivering his lecture series, Singapore, Nature and a World Reimagined. We have also expanded the fellowship's activities with the S.R. Nathan Fellowship Young Leaders Seminar Series. We recently concluded the second seminar in this series, which featured Dr. Raina Tan on youth mental health. Lastly, I would like to express again my sincere gratitude to neither civil nor servant, Philip Yeo, for accepting this fellowship and contributing his insights and experiences through his lectures and the book. Thank you very much, Philip.
Thank you, Director. May I now invite our guest of honor, Mr. Heng Keat, to deliver his remarks. Mr. Heng, please.
Mr. Janadas Devan, Director of IPS, Mr. Philip Yeo, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me thank Janadas for his confession of having prayed for the first time in his life and in one of the holiest places in the world, for my recovery when I had a stroke. In fact, in a few weeks' time, I shall be commemorating the 10th anniversary of my survival. In fact, just a few weeks back, just immediately after I retired from politics, I held another thank you event for my doctors, nurses, therapists at Tan Tock Seng Hospital to thank them once again for enabling my recovery. And in fact, I just recently had tea with members of the interreligious organizations, and I was at the Balawi Mosque, and they had this lovely photograph of, because I remembered all members of our religious order came together to pray together with, at that time, DPM Tharman, for me, and there was a photograph in the Straits Times on that. So I'm very blessed that there are so many people who prayed for me, who cared for me, who gave their best medical advice and to me for that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today. So thank you all very much. Now, I'm truly delighted to be here today to launch Philip's latest book, which captures his insight as the 16th S.R. Nathan Fellow. I have the privilege of knowing Philip since the late 1990s, back when we were working together on the Suzhou Industrial Park in China. Our founding Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, deeply appreciated Philip's strength of character, his ability to get things done, and his immense insights and contributions to Singapore's economic journey. Now later, when I became Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, our partnership grew even closer. First during his term as Chairman EDB, and later when he took the helm of what is now A-Star. Philip's first book was titled Neither Silver Nor Servant, a title that perfectly captures his famous maverick spirit. By having worked side by side with him all these years, I will say this: while he may be neither silver nor servant in the traditional sense, he is in fact one of the best public servants that Singapore has ever known. He uniquely combines an entrepreneurial visionary spirit with a relentless disciplined focus on execution. It is a rare gift to not only see the future, but to have the grit to build it. I remember a first-hand encounter with Philip's legendary energy when I joined him on an EDB investment promotion trip in the US. Now, I was a permanent secretary and Philip was chairman. And I said, Philip, I know nothing about how EDB does investment promotion. Can I join you? And he said, sure, come along. Now, Philip, to this day, I have zero impression of the city itself. Why? Because with Philip, there was no time for sightseeing. We breezed through the airport because Philip never carried checked luggage. It slowed him down. So I had to go and buy a carrier, a small little bag, so that I can run after Philip. We had breakfast at dawn to talk about strategy. We spent the day in a windowless van, debriefing the last meeting while preparing for the next. So therefore, I have zero impression of where we were, what we were doing. All that we knew was the work. Now, by the time we got back to the hotel in the evening, dinner was a simple sandwich or a plate of spaghetti, eaten while we planned our follow-ups. Now, as you know, Philip talk fast, eat fast, walk fast, get things done fast. Everything is fast, fast, fast. Now, that is Philip. Enormous energy, sharply focused on the mission. I also recall a moment after he became chairman of A-Star. He came to see me and confessed that he had stolen a few $100 million from the research budget. I was momentarily stunned. But he just smiled cheerfully and explained his vision. To truly transform our research landscape, we had to invest deeply in our people. So he took the funds to create the A-Star Scholarship. He also rebranded the National Science and Technology Board to A-Star because he wanted to produce Singaporean stars. So he understood that while we must attract the best global talent, which we call whales, their most important role was to mentor and develop our young scientists, which he called guppies. So the guppies swimming with the whales to learn how to survive in the big wide ocean. Now today, as chairman of National Research Foundation, I can look at our R&D landscape and say with certainty that Philip's theft was the best investment we ever made. Today, we have over 1,600 the A-Star scholars, all with PhDs, many of them working in our research institutes, in our universities, or in the companies. And Philip did not just give a scholarship to these students, this what we call the all the way scholarship, from a basic degree to a PhD. When I went to his office, he would pull up his desk and said, today so-and-so has just gotten married. Today so-and-so have just given birth. Every one of the A-Star scholars was like Philip's own children. I mean, he knew so much about each and every one of them. And so I think he's such a people person that today he has a vast network of these A-Star scholars, all very grateful to Philip for the opportunity that he had given him. And A-star scholars have in turn formed an excellent group, an alumni group. And one of them invited me a few months back to speak to them, and invited me again to say, can you come and talk about some of these things, about latest R&D landscape. So I think, Philip, the seed that you have planted have grown into many, many strong, robust trees, and really creating a tremendous energy in our R&D system. So Philip was never a typical public servant who simply follows rules and regulations. He is a public entrepreneur. He was always challenging the status quo, always pushing into new frontiers. When Philip decided that a cause was worth pursuing, he gave it every ounce of his energy. I remember his office at A-Star was a library of complex scientific papers, all neatly printed and then filed by subject. So if you wanted any subject about genetics or about immunology, or you could just go to Philip and say, Philip, can I borrow the whole docket of papers? I don't know how Philip gets all his energy, and maybe we will hear from Philip, what special herbs or magic that he has. It's just a tremendous ball of energy, but very, very focused energy. Now, he immersed himself in really knowing the tremendous details so that he could speak the language of the great scientists like Professor Sidney Bretner, a Nobel laureate, to convince them to help us build our future. And Sidney spent many years in Singapore to help us groom our younger generation. So I'm very glad that Janadas and the IPS invited Philip to give this lecture series. The 3 lectures covering economic transformation, R&D, and growing Singapore enterprises are all vital. And in many ways, the growth of local enterprises is an unfinished work started by another giant in Singapore, Dr. Goh Keng Swee. Dr. Goh knew that we had to invite the world to Singapore to catch up. We got the best companies from the first world to then invest in Singapore, and they brought in management know-how, technology, and market access to allow us to industrialize very quickly. But at the same time, Dr. Goh also always dreamt of Singaporean companies holding their own on the global stage. And I think I'm very glad that in this age of technology and innovation, we're beginning to see many, many more companies that are being formed. A few of them have become unicorns, but I believe that there should be many more. And Philip has again planted the seed for many of these activities, because with this scholarship, with the emphasis on science and technology and innovation, I think we would hopefully be able to see many more great Singapore companies that are grown in Singapore. Now, Philip often says he's neither civil nor servant, but his life's work is the ultimate masterclass of service. So to the younger generation here today, don't just read these lectures. Absorb his spirit. Be bold, be unconventional, and most importantly, be relentless. Be relentless in your focus, in your execution. Philip, you have set the bar high for all of us. Remember, no checked-in luggage if you want to succeed. Just run. So my heartiest congratulations to you, Philip, on this launch, and for a lifetime of making the impossible possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heng. May I now invite Mr. Philip Yeo to deliver his remarks. Mr. Yeo, please.
Mr. Heng Swee Keat, Chairman NRF, Mr. Janadas Devan, Director IPS, ladies and gentlemen, a good evening to all of you. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to begin by expressing my thanks to the team at IPS who have worked behind the scenes to make this book possible. Now, this book came out from the 3 lectures I delivered as part of the IPS Fellowship. IPS tried to persuade me to give these lectures, and I was not very keen anyway, because I'm not academic, I'm used to doing things. I don't give public lectures. After much persuasion, I agreed. And I felt it was also relevant to record not just what happened in Singapore, how many of the decisions were made, what were the risks we took, and what lessons we can learn, and we have learned along the way. This book is meant not to be an economic history. It's meant to be a story how Singapore approached a transformation at different stages of our economic development. Singapore's problems has always been simple: how to create jobs. And first, it's always been a trading nation, but trading doesn't create many jobs. So we moved into manufacturing. So Singapore invited industries to integrate Singapore in the global marketplace and provide job opportunities for Singaporeans to develop new skills and employment. Now, eventually, as our wages grew and competition increased, Singapore had to continually upgrade higher value-added activities. Singapore could not rely on just manufacturing. We needed capability to do research, basic science, and innovation. We had to create knowledge, not just assemble products. Now, we began by, with Sydney Brenner's help, stealing whales or capturing whales, bringing the top scientists here. In fact, Sydney and I sat down together, we drew our list of 100 victims. But we managed to recruited about 30, 40, whereas they brought them here on the chairman of committees. So they were here, but physically about 30 plus were here. And also, how do we encourage our young people to move to science, what we call our guppies. So Mr. Heng said, I legally zapped 10% of our NSTB budget at some NSTB, which is $1 billion, to train 1,000 scientists. Why 1,000 scientists? When I was in there, 1,000 was a battalion size. Yeah. Now, all these efforts, you can see today, they are everywhere. Now, one lesson is clearly, the most important is talent. Policies, infrastructures are important, but ultimately it's talent. And the talent that is curious and determined, and they drive progress. I've been fortunate to work with many of these dedicated colleagues and partners who helped me to build a larger collection of themselves and the talent we have today. Now, today we face an era of disruption, as Janadas has said, artificial intelligence, technological change, geographical uncertainty. And I've been traveling myself, visiting places to see the changes happening. I've been fortunate to see what's happening. I was last week in Shenzhen for 2 days looking at a flying car. So I said, when can a car be available? I said, well, maybe next year. At a car that goes into a van, you pull up the van with a two-seater, 350 to 400,000 US, which is affordable. So I believe there's a lot of potential. I hope this book will encourage our readers, especially younger leaders, to reflect on Singapore's journey and to think boldly what we can do and what they can do. Finally, I have to give thanks to the team at IPS, Liang Kai-sin and Charmaine Chong, who have helped to collate and edit my lectures into this booklet. The teams at EDB, A-Star, and Enterprise Singapore who helped with the curation of my lectures and the slides. And most important, my moderates, Chin Kai Fong, Dr. Lisa Wee, and Au Kaping, who kept the discussion, Q&A lively and honest. Once again, thank you for being here this evening. I hope you enjoy the book. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yeo. Please remain on stage. May I now invite Mr. Heng and Director to the stage for the launch of the book, please. We will now launch the book. Mr. Yeo will now present Mr. Heng with a copy of the book. And now, Director will present Mr. Yeo with a token of appreciation from IPS. Mr. Yeo. Please remain on stage for a photo together. The book is now launched. Thank you everyone for attending and have a good evening ahead. If you like your book signed by Mr. Yeo, please proceed to the foyer outside. Thank you.